you leave school, you go into the workplace, the adult world, there's a new set of rules. Like I know for myself, there was a new set of rules and I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure. There's adults here, oh dear Lord. It's different from being in school or university.
Yeah. Guys, I just want to welcome Dillon Khan, who is the author of the book, The Intern, which will be released on the 5th of April.
In time for Easter.
Lovely.
Must read for Easter.
Yeah.
Wherever you're flying.
So basically we just want to have a quick chat today about interns and internships. Dillon, first of all, if you want to introduce your book and what it goes into, and then we can just have a chat about different parts of like what you cover.
I think the best way to kind of, we were talking about labels just before we started, it's probably the Devil Wears Prada for the music television industry. And what I've also created is a website called intern.co.uk, and on there is stuff about the book, some sample chapters, as well as some spoken word poets doing some pieces there which are quite nice. Dean Atta, and it's called I Am the Intern.
When you say that, what does that exactly mean? Because I don't know about the Devil Wears Prada. So, yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
To be quite honest with you, I didn't know what it was either.
I did.
It was my editor, who was a female. Once we finished, she was like, you know what, this is like Devil Wears Prada from your television. And I was like, okay, I'm sure that means something.
So is there kind of like an evil kind of boss?
I think it's an interpretation. You can either look at individuals and say, are they evil? You can look at an industry and say, is that evil? You can look at an organisation and say, is that evil? But yeah, the book is The Devil Wears Prada for the music television industry. It basically is a character called Jay Merchant who starts off on the outside. You kind of see his journey of how he gets on the inside, how he kind of comes to terms with being on the inside and what that brings. The book itself is set in the year 2000, and the idea is to kind of highlight cultural references from that time frame and seeing how things are very similar now. But it was a turning point in culture. Where was music going? It was the whole kind of turn of the millennium bug. There was no iTunes, there was no iPod.
What was the inspiration for you writing this book, and how did you think you were the right guy to write the book?
Well, basically, when I was 8 years old, I always thought I was going to write books. I used to love writing. And then as I got older and I worked at WH Smith on a Saturday job, as you do, I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to write a book. I want my book to be on the shelf along with the others. And then you do your studies, and then you go off into the workplace, and then it's just so hectic. You just don't get time to do anything. I had 20 ideas for different books, and when I kind of took time out, I thought, okay, now's the time. I had a music journalist background, and so it was a case of each article is one theme and you write it and it's gone. This one was a collection of themes.
Is any of you guys been an intern?
Yes.
You've been
See, when you say intern, it's like I've done stuff to get experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't know if that's exactly what an intern is.
Yeah,
but
pretty much what it is.
That's exactly what it is. I think most people, if you enter into kind of the entertainment industry, you have to kind of go down that route unless you're really, really lucky and you know somebody who knows someone who works in the area that you want to work in.
Which even then, most of the time, you'd have to kind of do that kind of internship, introduce yourself and, you know, do something for free. So many people are willing to do internships and need to do internships. From my point of view, I think that it's actually quite hard to find well-paid work.
I think when you've got youth unemployment just in the UK over 1 million and there's not that many jobs about, I think everyone is looking to just try and get experience, so therefore they will give up their services for free.
Now Jay just said that, what's your point for this book? Are you trying to say to people that internship is good, is it bad, or are you giving people tips for internship? What's your message with the book?
I think it's all of the above to a certain extent, because there's definitely tips in there of how to get in, what you do when you get in. I think also with a lot of kids is when you leave university, you leave school, you go into the workplace, the adult world, there's a new set of rules. Like I know for myself, there was a new set of rules and I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure. There's adults here, oh dear Lord. It's different from being in school or university. The message of the book is, all the themes in the book are not just tips and thought-provoking ideas, but also lessons to kind of pick up on and keep an eye out for.
A couple of those which Trevor Nelson picked up on your website, which you've got like a couple of videos on, the intern.co.uk, is some of his top tips I thought were quite good actually. So it's like behave, get your foot in the door. You can't expect to gain respect straight away when you're stepping into the world of work. I think that's something that a lot of interns might not necessarily pick up on.
So we've got Trevor Nelson talking about how to make it as a radio presenter, a chap called Hamish Hamilton who's a super director for the Brits, the Oscars, the halftime show at the Super Bowl, who gives advice on how to make it into TV. Right now in this current climate, if you've got 1 million kids in youth unemployment, I think we need these kind of tools rather than the stuff that you get from a brochure. This is people kind of giving you real talk.
Because, you know, entertainment and media is so glossy on the outside, people tend to have this idea of thinking that, oh my God, that's what it's going to be like. I mean, I've seen interns, I've come from a fashion background, and they come in, they expect, you know, oh, I'm going to wear clothes all day, shopping, I'm going to be doing this, and it's like, nah, darling, you need to go to this PR company, that PR company, pick this up, iron this, press this, wash this, and they're like, what?
But do you know what my thing is?
Exactly. Don't take it as a disrespect if you manage to get an internship in the area of work that you want to get into, that people are asking you to make teas, asking you to iron stuff. Take it upon your head and see how you can learn from that. It's not all about gloss, it's about working towards an end product. I'm looking at this billboard that I helped to create in terms of maybe fashion styling. That's where I came from. That's where the reward comes in. And if you continue to work hard, your rewards won't go unnoticed.
With internship being so popular, in my head I'm kind of like, okay, have we completely got rid of the idea of paying people whilst they're in training? Now internship is like the standard thing to do before you actually get hired. Is that what we've turned it into? Where it's like, okay, you know what? Now it's all about internship. We can get this for free, and we actually don't even have to hire you. How do I?
There's two ways of looking at it at the end of the day, because there's the whole work fair point of view where people are on job seekers and have to work, doing work experience for a certain amount of time, otherwise they get their job seekers allowance cut. Or there's the kind of more media way of looking at an intern, which is more like, okay, I need to go here and get this experience, so then I can use that as a kind of stepping stone to get more experience, and then maybe apply for the bigger job that I want to get.
I am not down with slave labor under the false pretense that people are going to gain something from this scenario. But I am definitely in favor of practicing humility, where you can humble yourself, not get ahead of yourself thinking that you're the fucking gift to wherever you're entering, but at the same time you're learning the trade, you're learning the skill that you didn't have previously, as long as it's for a certain period of time.
I was given an opportunity here as an internship, and I worked from 8 AM until 6 PM in the evening, and then I travelled from my other workplace to here, Teeth Nose, and worked here from about 7 until normally like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then travel back my hour-and-a-half route back home, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and do the same thing again and again. I did it for about 3 months maybe, before these guys, you know what, this girl's dedicated, let's give her a full-time placement.
But someone else could have taken a piss out of you though.
Yeah.
Because I know people that have been in internship for 2 fucking years. And in my head I'm looking at you like, motherfucker, you don't realise they're taking a piss out of you.
Yeah. I think you really just got to have a good eye for who you can trust and who you can't trust. It's hard. Sometimes you might get it wrong, but if you really have a passion for what you want to do and you really want to get your foot in the door, then you will make it work. You just need to know the value of whatever it is that you're doing, and just know that you are yourself valuable.
I saw it as they worked out that, you know what, we're probably not going to hire this guy.
Yeah.
But because of the kind of person he is, he's passive, doesn't answer back, doesn't necessarily raise questions, we can just string him along for 2 years.
That's down to the individual. You have to decide for yourself. Is it worth my time doing 1 year, 2 year, or even 3 months? You need to figure out what you want to do.
I do think it's down to the person as well as it's down to the company. It's 2 different minds that are having to make 2 different decisions.
I think you've just got to be very smart as to what you're getting yourself in for, and if you feel that it provides value to you. I definitely think there's an argument and a conversation to be had, I suppose, between the government and all types of businesses really, to say, how do we safeguard people from being exploited? I think the other thing is that what a price point does in any product or service is it provides a slightly higher value. So for example, if I gave you a CD for free, I don't know if you value it as much. You're like, it's free, great. Whereas if I said to you, pay $1.99 for it, you would value it. You would make sure you keep the cover on it, you make sure it's stored properly, and so on and so forth. Work experience needs to be treated, or internships need to be treated in the same way. I think if an employer looks at a youth workforce, for example, and says, okay, we're going to pay you minimum wage for argument's sake, right? They'll make sure that they value that workforce and that they ensure they mentor the workforce and get value out of that workforce. Whereas when it's for free, what they might think is, oh, it's great, we've got someone for free, he's got everybody to run around. They themselves won't look at it in a structured manner.
I think that's a really good point. Everybody's got to live at the end of the day. To know that you are valued as an intern is a great feeling. That way you kind of know that you're heading in the right direction. If you know that you can make money from something that you are doing, even if it only is a little bit of money, if you know that you can make money from something that you're doing and that you believe in, that you're passionate about, then you should be very grateful. Take that and run with it.
It kind of makes sense to have something where everyone feels that there's a a value to either the person who's putting the time in and the company themselves. So it's like everyone's accountable. So my top 5 tips for getting an internship, well, they're not mine actually. If you look at some of the artists around, they'll give you some tips. Rule number 1, have confidence and believe in yourself. Look to Nas in I Know I Can. Next, when you're job hunting, you've got to be on the hustle. So for that, we need Rick Ross and hustling. Now you might send out loads of letters and you'll get rejections. So for that, listen to Aaliyah, dust yourself off and try again. After that, when you get to the interview stage, Eminem, Lose Yourself. In that moment, you've got that one chance to impress that person and make sure that they hire you. And then finally, once you're in there and you're working hard, Wu-Tang, Cream. You gotta get that money.
People don't understand how fucking competitive this game is, man. If people ain't heard of you, you ain't gonna get half an hour to fucking showcase your shit. That's my point.
Why should I sit down and watch you for half an hour? You need to prove to me why I should. You can plug your own stuff. You can go on the internet and just YouTube
but
it
the
up.
internet has killed the DJ. No offense. No offense.
Not like your life.
Bro, you can't.